Hello, this is Strategy Miscellany. Welcome back to Terra Invicta. It is October of 2032, end of October, so a little over 10 years on from the beginning. And we are basically attempting to give portions of our sphere of influence that we've built up over so long. We're giving it piecemeal to the aliens. We've given them direct control over Bangladesh and over the Himalayan states. Next stop is planned to be Sri Lanka. And after that, I am going to go ahead and give them all of India. It's going to be a setback to us for sure, but it should make the alien administration have an unshakable power base in Asia. What with the three added human armies, the 1.5 billion people, it should make it a lot harder for other countries to influence them. And so, because of that, I'm going to change my priorities a little bit here. And India is going to, still build up the economy, um, but I'm mostly going to put points into unity because I want the population to be unified behind basically supporting alien rule when that day comes in a few months. So that's the plan there. I'll probably also give the aliens Myanmar. It's already extremely unified. And so we'll give them that. And in the future, we will also give them China, is my plan. Meanwhile, we'll build a new super state down here, and we'll take over either Japan or the Eurasian Union or something in Africa as a new base of power for us. Eventually, we're going to give the whole world to the aliens. Well, 65% of the world's population. That's our goal right now. Right now, the aliens control 3% of the world's population. So we're a long way out. But they're basically unchallenged in space because they came so early, because the AI is not great at building up space fleets, and because I've been messing with some of the other factions' space economies, in particular the Resistance and Humanity First. I don't think Resistance or Humanity First have any space bases in the Earth Moon system. They have some moon mines, which I'm going to be taking out fairly shortly, is the plan. Let me see. I had some Space Marines going up there. Is this a Space Marine? Let me look at it. No, these are missile and gunships, so they would actually be destroying the stations. I'd rather capture them if I'm given the chance. So I'm just assembling everybody at Redeemer Station so that they can go to the moon together and start landing some Space Marines on the moon. Meanwhile, back on Earth, our priorities are the capture of Indonesia is a major priority. Now that I can do it, I'm going to need to send someone to go um, and unify South Korea, or not South Korea, unify Singapore and Malaysia together once I get to the confirm assignments phase here. There we go. So one of my counselors is going to go unify South Singapore into Malaysia as a first step in the establishment of Greater Malaysia. Some of the rest of them are going to continue political campaigns in Indonesia. I want to get enough support that I can start cracking in. So that's what these people are doing. And then two of them here, Shuyao and Jody, are basically running alien abductions to consolidate the power of the aliens over different regions so that we can then build alien facilities in those countries and then hand them over directly to the aliens. Look, it's all for the best, obviously. It's for the greater good of humanity, obviously. So, that's what we're doing right now. I will get back to you in January and we'll see how things are going. All right, it's January. We have given Sri Lanka over to alien control. We've built a bunch of research campuses in space, which has increased our research speed significantly. However, it is giving us some monetary problems. The answer to that, I believe, is going to be our new station around Earth, where we've got a space hotel in construction, and we're also going to build some space hospitals. Which use a little bit less boost, a bit more of some other resources, and lets you make a good amount of money and learn a little bit of life science research by presumably providing treatments for people that are easier to do in zero gravity. I don't know exactly what it would be, but I imagine there's some medical conditions where not having any weight put on anything would actually be a good thing. So that's what we're doing, is we're building space hospitals. See, never let anybody tell you the servants don't do anything for humanity. Meanwhile, I've sent my fleet with its space marines to the moon. I have to refuel, and my water production is just not fast enough to let my ships fly all the way around the system super fast. But once I get these ships refueled, they're going to go and start storming some stations on the moon and putting them under my control. Back on Earth, meanwhile, preparing to hand India over to the aliens is part of our plan. We were granted control over Iran, which does have a nuclear weapon and is being invaded by the resistance. It might be a good idea to teach them a lesson about why you shouldn't do that. Well, I don't know if I really want to start a nuclear world war at this point. Not when we're so close to victory. I have been granted a little bit of control in the Eurasian Union, and that might be my next step, although I'm kind of okay with the Protectorate running the place, honestly. You know, they're not so different from us. It really is Indonesia I want to take, and Indonesia has been quite resilient so far in resisting my attempts, but I basically just need a couple of lucky rolls and I'll be able to crack in there. Other than that, I could start looking at Japan. Haven't really thought about them in a long time, and that might be worthwhile. They do have 3 armies at a fairly high tech level, 2 of which have navies. So Japan might actually be a worthwhile next step. Anyway, I will get back to you in April and see how we're doing with all this. So it's April. We have just granted India to the alien administration. Now, there's a bit of unrest from the sudden turnover of control, so we're going to have to spend some work stabilizing that. But after that, the alien administration should have a real base of power on Earth in a way they didn't before. I mean, 1.8 billion people are now under alien rule, most of whom are in South Asia, although there's about 60 million or so in Central America. Hopefully the aliens will start moving some of their real high-tech armies here. Hopefully maybe do some conquering on their own so I don't have to feed them the whole planet. They've been pretty passive, really. I also was granted by the aliens executive control in the Eurasian Union. I'm ending some of the wars that the Eurasian Union has been in. Thankfully, the US seems willing to do that. And then I did notice I have Tanzania. Now, the resistance just declared war on them. But I should be able to align Tanzania with maybe even the alien administration. And that ought to scare the US into seeking peace. I would hope, anyway. So we'll see what happens there. I'm going to try and build an East African Federation over here, although the whole region is pretty unstable and it's going to need a lot of work to put it together. I'm going to try and take full control of Eurasia. And once I have both of those, I might be willing to give the aliens China also. Really give them a real power base at that point. You know, China plus India. That's like close to 3 billion people right there. You put them together. And so that's my plan. I did have one of my counselors, Milena Machado, my persuasion expert, was assassinated by the resistance. I retaliated by taking their bases on the moon or their base on the moon and also a humanity first one just out of principle. And also by assassinating one of their counselors. So the Shadow War continues. Most of my counselors are high security enough. I'm not as worried about them. Our new one here, Fatima, I'm more worried about her. On the other hand, we've spent a lot less work on building her up. Although I can give her some cybernetic augmentations here. One of these should help her security. I should do that. There, that's better than nothing. And yeah, I should look at just augmenting some of my other counselors with stats too. Like helping Yang Biao here with his ability to stage coups. All that sort of thing. A lot of these counselors have been with us a very long time at this point. They really are old hands at the Shadow War. So that's the plan. Grant China and Myanmar to the aliens, continue expanding our control in Eurasia and East Africa, and hopefully also Indonesia and Japan, and continue on our progress towards victory. At present, the aliens control 21% of the world's population. We're about 1/3 of the way there. Research-wise, our research is flying along with all our new research bases in space. We're building up our better crackdowns, our better psyops, our greater Malaysia, our space commerce. And so I'm optimistic about what the future will bring.
Ready to go.
So basically, the moment that I gave the aliens India, everything started going crazy. They started just declaring war all over the planet. They've conquered Spain, they've conquered Japan, they've conquered Turkey. The US invaded Korea and has taken it over from me. China is running in. It's kind of Korean War Mark II. The aliens were invading Pakistan from India. Pakistan launched nukes basically at itself to defend itself from them. We're not in a full nuclear winter yet, and I am going to retaliate here at their forces. Let's go. That might be a mistake, but I want to take out that Pakistani army there so that the aliens can actually complete their conquest of it. And globally, you can see, yeah, in kind of a galaxy brain way, it's solving nuclear war. It's solving global warming. Um, the global temperature anomaly is back down to 1 degree Celsius because we got so many aerosols up in the sky. That's okay. If this starts going down more like -2 or -3 degrees, then that's when you start seeing problems. And so we'll see what happens there. The other problem is the alien administration has been conquering so much, its unrest is super high. So we need to send several of our counselors on basically a crash program to decrease unrest in the alien administration. If they're going to be doing this many conquest missions, We have to do that, otherwise they're going to destroy themselves. So I have to take some people off other priorities and stabilize the alien administration. I also do want to give the aliens China. And so I'm still working on that plan here. Because once they have India and China, they should see so big it should be hard for other counselors to cause unrest in them. And um, it should also be difficult uh, for eating another nation to cause them so much trouble. You know, they're so large at that point that it should be fairly easy for them to, in fact, control the place without difficulty.
We'll make our where to.
So that's the plan. Giving them China, which is fairly low unrest and authoritarian already, so it won't be such a big shock to become under alien rule. And yeah, great success with our nuclear strike on their armies. All right, it is the end of July. I'm a little late with my update. A lot has been going on. Basically, now I control the Eurasian Union, which has a ton of nuclear weapons, but is kind of actually a little weak militarily. I only have one army on the board right now, or conventional militarily. So I'm rushing to build another army for them. Their tech is pretty good. It's just they only really have one out there. And there's basically a insane global war going on between the aliens and the resistance, mostly with the US. That's the strongest military power that's kind of directly opposing them. But the aliens have just been going nuts with conquest. They've taken Greece, Turkey, Spain, Poland. They've taken the Gulf states. They've taken Japan. I've given them, meanwhile, India, China, Sri Lanka, the Himalayan states. You put that all together with their Central American holdings, and the aliens currently have 3.78 billion people under their control. Now, the global population has gone up a little bit since 2020. So there's actually 8.8 billion people in the world. So the aliens control 43% of the global population. Now, I think with their control over the armies of India and China, plus all the alien armies, the aliens should be able to militarily defeat the resistance. And I'm hoping their next step is going to be a direct invasion of the United States. Meanwhile, I've been spending most of my effort on essentially sabotaging or trying to stabilize the alien administration. Every time they conquer a country, their unrest goes way up. And so at least two of my counselors have been standing around stabilizing them constantly, which hasn't left much room for me to do much else. But I think what I need to do is stabilize the alien administration and either break up or control the United States. Because if the aliens invade directly, they have 28 nuclear barrages. I'm worried the resistance will end the world in nuclear fire rather than submit to the alien control. And so what I think we need to do is basically lever them out of here either by breaking up the country with this Fall of Empires project, and then what carries on from that. So I'm going to make that high priority. Or alternatively, by cracking into their country by increasing unrest, maybe, or increasing our popularity over there. I have some counselors who can do that sort of thing. I think we can figure some of that out. Basically, I've left the aliens to play the sort of risk game on the planet now, and I am left being their servants, as it were, and trying to crack down on the enemies that they can't reach directly. I'll report back in October, and that'll be the end of this episode. So the Protectorate has achieved its, or learned its victory conditions, basically. And what they want to do is make a deal with the aliens that we won't leave Earth, and they'll put up a bunch of battle stations to basically enforce that. It turns out to not work quite as well as they would hope, as I recall from watching someone else's playthrough or reading about it. But regardless, they do not have the control here on Earth that they need to make something like that happen. We are going to be directly ruled by the aliens, as we should be. So that's the plan. And we're sticking to it. So I had something happen that I'm not quite sure the best way to deal with. The aliens got too greedy too fast, started conquering too many countries. Even though I placed everybody on stabilizing them, their unrest reached 10, and there was a massive human revolt in the occupied territories. The aliens have been reduced to a patchwork, and there's a ton of newly independent countries around the world. Now, a lot of those have fairly significant levels of servant popular support because I was the last one to be running them, namely India and China. Some of the rest of them, yeah, honestly, a lot of them, that's maybe something they need to change because, I mean, the aliens were just overthrown by massive revolt, and yet a lot of the populace seems to be on the side of the servants in most of them. So you can see the alien administration is now just little particles all around the world. They're basically going to have to reconquer huge amounts of territory. So I'm going to try and do kind of a twofold thing of stabilizing them and then taking back control of these major population areas that they lost, India and China in particular. Oh, also, East Turkestan and Tibet are now independent nations. So that's interesting. But yeah, really things got pretty wild there. And I'm not quite sure the best way to progress forwards at this point. I think at some point I'll give the Eurasian Union to the aliens also, while I take back maybe my control of India and China briefly, while I put them back under stabilization programs so that I can allow um, the alien nation to take them over. It's either that or really just a full court press on the U.S., pull the rug from underneath the initiative. I mean, from the resistance. Because the U.S. is definitely the strongest military power resisting the aliens. I mean, the European Union's maybe second, but, you know, China and India no longer resisting the aliens, were actually cooperating with the aliens until recently. South Korea, I guess, is another one that's a reasonably strong military power. But yeah, I thought we were about to win it there, and then the aliens got greedy and huge setback. So I'll have to think a bit about the best way to fix the situation. So it's October. This whole year has been a real roller coaster. Just spectacular losses and spectacular gains. The aliens had two more revolutions in their administration, which is now reduced to 38 million people only under alien control, less than they had at the beginning of the episode. In kind of Gansu province in China, in Sri Lanka, and I'm trying to see where else there might be alien territory. I think there's one somewhere down here. Maybe not, though. Maybe they just want this back, because they have... The nice thing is we do have these alien bases all over the world now where the alien administration was. And so that should hopefully help us build back to some extent. But they have really been knocked back to basically the start of their invasion. They do have 11 armies landed around the world, and their armies are very high tech. So that is something. But we're basically having to start from scratch. Basically, I have the Eurasian Union. which has a couple of armies in it. Of decent military tech and a whole bunch of nuclear weapons. And I am taking back control of India. You know, the nice thing is the people there mostly still support me. So it's full of strife, but I should be able to take and restabilize India and eventually even maybe give it back to the alien administration. Although I maybe want to be a little more cautious with giving them territory. Maybe what I need to do is take a bunch of the world's population myself and give it to them all in one go because they just can't be trusted to hold on to it. They can't be trusted to conquer this much because they just let it all slip through their fingers. And they're still fighting wars all over. If I look at the global screen, so I think they're starting to warm up again as the nuclear winter is dissipating. Yeah, okay, here's the US fighting Iran. That's just kind of regime change type of stuff. Here's the aliens fighting the Czechs, Taiwan, and Ireland. The US fighting Bulgaria and the EU for some reason. The aliens fighting East Germany, and the aliens fighting Jordan. So yeah, they're just trying they're kind of flailing. They're trying just random conquests around the world. I'm not quite sure how best to help though. I'm gonna have to sit down and think about this a little bit and start the long road back to the conquest of Earth. Because in the end, that's where it's going. I really think if I can get a few counselors with enough persuasion and espionage and such to break into the US, to get this popularity up, and then start taking control points or increasing unrest and doing a coup or something, I think that will break the back of the resistance. And the resistance is basically my main enemy. If I can get the US armies to stop fighting against the aliens and start fighting for the aliens, I think it won't be too difficult to get I mean, I have a lot of control cap. I should be able to get a large population under my control specifically, and then hold that control until the day comes when I give it all to the aliens in one big swoop. So that is the new plan. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.